Hello and welcome back to Assorted Beefs, where I talk about anything I want to that doesn't fit into niche tea for any particular reason. I've gotten requests about the wedding dress, various things that are happening, so I'm going to do a high-level recap of the two main ones that have been going around. First is the Ma Corsetiere thing, and the second is the stolen wedding dress. Both situations involve a back and forth between a dressmaker and a bride, and both involve specifically dressmakers that are independent, so they either run their own business or they work through IG or whatever. The Ma Corsetiere situation started off because a bride came forward and said, hey, I had this issue with this dressmaker who functionally scammed me out of $700. She goes on to say that it was Ma Corsetiere, the owner's name is Cricket, and she signed a contract with Cricket for a custom wedding dress earlier in the year. The contract stated the final end date, and they both agreed on it, that it had to be delivered by so that the bride would be able to have final adjustments and everything done prior to the wedding. It was not ready or even begun to be ready by that time. Bride says functionally she wants a refund for the violation of the contract terms because they weren't met, and that affects her ability to do what she needs to do in time for her wedding, and claims that she offered a few solutions, like the corset was done and she would take the corset but then be refunded for the other part of it, like all that stuff, but they weren't able to come to a resolution on that because, according to the bride, from Cricket's perspective, you know, you owe this and these are in our policies and something. Then Cricket's allegedly sister came onto TikTok and said, hey, by the way, Cricket stole this business from me. We were supposed to open up a business together that was going to do intimates and bridal and would have a good amount of corset work within it, and I was the designer. We didn't have anyone to make anything, so we were going to outsource things to be made, but we needed to have samples in order to send those out to be then outsourced to be reproduced. Instead of hiring someone to do that, Cricket said she wanted to learn how to do boning and corset work and that type of stuff. So what she said was she went off and would learn that, and then she decided to open up her own business that was specific to corsets, or according to the sister, that is what Cricket told her, the sister. And according to the sister, Cricket said, this will be a way for me to make money for us to fund our business, because the reason they hadn't launched was because of a funds issue, which is common with small businesses. But then also she's like, this will help me also get better and better at what I'm going to be doing for us together. It's a win-win situation, so don't worry, and I'll sunset this before we ever launch. They then, again, according to the sister, had some sort of falling out, and from there they went no contact, and Cricket went ahead and just continued with Ma Corsetiere. And the sister claims that since the stuff Cricket was initially making was for their samples, obviously there's some overlap in terms of what Cricket is currently selling on her own being based on the designs from the sister, at least to some extent. In addition to the general theme and the typography and like the graphic design of the website, all that type of stuff is all very much a knockoff of the brand they were going to launch together, supposedly. I looked into it a little bit more. The information is fairly limited. I can say that the sister has been claiming this for a while. This isn't like a brand new thing. So there is some consistency there, though that's not proof in itself. But I have also seen evidence that brides have been unhappy with Cricket and her business for months now. From what I can see, Cricket got really popular really fast because a lot of people started finding alternative options for getting their wedding dresses in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of people have probably started new businesses because, again, that happened a lot over the last few years post 2020. So Cricket was somebody who barely learned how to do all this stuff from scratch with no background in it, and then went and started a business, and her designs, which potentially are based on or are the sister's designs, we don't know, were very, very popular. She got a huge influx of brides, and she did not manage that well at all. You can easily find multiple accusations of this similar type of thing from other brides who have in the last few months worked with Cricket. One even alleges they got their dress with a blood stain on the inside. You cannot make this up. Like, it's just sloppy stuff. I personally think Cricket got in way over her head, didn't realize how much time all these different things would take, and overpromised instead of declining when she really should have, because of volume and just because of her own knowledge of her own timing and skill set. Cricket has responded once that I've seen, giving her account of the situation that happened with the first bride who came forward, and it was pretty bad. It was basically like, these were the contract negotiations, and here was me sending her this communication, and here's me sending her this communication, and like, the reality is the deadline is the deadline. When you work in bridal, you have to be able to stick to your deadline. It's very hard to audible things. It's very hard to figure it out at the last second. It's very hard to be accommodating as a bride when you are working with people who all other vendors have very strict timelines. And obviously you cannot just casually move the wedding in the overwhelming majority of cases. So If you weren't prepared to do that, you should not open the business. And then the second story is the one about the stolen wedding dress. This one was started by the designer named Kazaze. Kazaze posted a video that says, look at this beautiful custom wedding dress that I made, and shows this gorgeous model wearing it and says it was stolen by the bride, who has blocked me now that she's received it and still owes me money on it. This exploded immediately, and people like flooded the bride's social media, which then all immediately got shut down for a few days, and people really went kind of crazy with this. Then the bride named Riley came back with a big video saying, hey, I shut everything down because when she posted this video, it was the evening before my wedding. I was getting married and then on, I guess, a short honeymoon. And no, I didn't want to deal with this. I texted her telling her, we will deal with this when I get back. She then proceeds to explain almost the exact situation as the other with Ma Corsetiere. The dress, they signed an agreement in February. It was supposed to be done by a drop dead, like deadline date, which again is very common in bridal because you don't have flexibility when you get toward the date. And basically, according to the bride Riley, everything was pushed back way later than it should have been, way past the drop dead date, to the point, and she's stuck with, it seems like, this designer, and didn't abandon her to go get another dress until like the very, very, very last minute. And when she did get the dress, there was a lot of things that weren't working with it. She also had to fly up to Kazaze to get things like fittings done and all this other stuff. A lot of things were wrong because she saw everything later than she should have. She wasn't able to give that feedback and have those corrections made until later. She also claims she wasn't informed of things up front, like, oh, we had to change directions because XYZ thing. So all of that was hit on her, according to Riley, the bride, when she first saw the dress, which was later than she should have. It just, everything was late. They go back and forth a bunch, and basically you get to the very, very end when she finally gets the supposedly fixed dress, and it's still very much not fixed. And she basically says, hey, I need to find another solution. I can't wear this dress. I need to get something else. I'm going to block you and deal with this later because I'm about to get married literally in like the next 2 days. She does also show proof that she never wore the dress. Riley and Kazaze have continued to go back and forth on social media, but Riley has also indicated that she's obtained counsel and so probably won't post necessarily too much more. Kazaze is still maintaining that she did what she needed to do and she's owed the money or the dress, although actually she said she doesn't care about getting the dress back anymore, but I don't know how much that is true or not. Ultimately, it sounds like this should go to court because a court needs to determine whether the money is owed because ultimately the dress was delivered, or if the dress didn't meet expectations in terms of delivery date and quality and specification enough such that Riley has a legitimate claim to not pay for it or whatever, find some other type of solution. Plus, my guess is that a lawyer has probably told Riley that she has a solid case, at least to attempt to go for defamation against Kazaze for the way Kazaze brought this to social media. If there's any lesson to be taken from this and all the other stories that are now coming forward, because I know I'm suddenly seeing a ton of videos of people just saying this wedding dress wasn't ready in time. The lesson is, unfortunately, if you're going to work with independent, individual custom vendors for anything for your wedding, really, really vet them and protect yourself as much as possible. If I were to get a custom wedding dress, for example, if I were getting married next year, I would want the deadline to be several months before the wedding. And if they can't guarantee me that, then I will choose to not go that direction. It sucks, especially when you see someone who like really has what you like and they're like, well, maybe I can get it done by maybe your date. Don't do it. Even if they have a stellar reputation, like Kazaze does actually, seems to have a lot of people who really like them. And I believe Kazaze has done beautiful work for other people. There are a lot of people saying that. But even so, if it were me, I would have been like, because it's custom and just to be safe, let's push it out a couple months early so that we have time if stuff goes wrong, if I need to get it altered, like all that stuff.